Hello, how are you? All is well? Another day, another episode. Today is a slightly different episode because it's based on certain developments which I want to talk about. Not last week, early this week, Monday, I saw two articles in the newspaper. One article was that the government of India is going to pass a law, a forest law, that will help people develop deemed forest land and also help people build infrastructure like dams in forest areas. It's a new NGT, National Green Tribunal proposal. I read about it. And then I read about the value of cantonment land uh, is valued at 150 crores an acre. There are two very, very disturbing pieces of news. Now I'll talk about it. The first one, uh, if you are an agriculturist, then you tend to have in Maharashtra and across the country, in various states, it's called various things, pattas in some state and land holding certificates. But in Maharashtra, it is called a Satbara, 712 extract. Basically gives you the ownership of the land. It tells you who owns it. It tells you who owned it in the past, the history of that land. So if you bought that land, your name will come on the Satbara. That also goes into government records. Now Satbara is a farmer certificate. Basically, you need to be a farmer to buy agriculture land. Uh, Now, agriculture land is a very critical part of our ecosystem. I'll come to that a little later. Let me first finish the deemed forest part. So historically, what has happened is a lot of people have migrated towards rural areas and forest areas and acquired land hundreds of years back. Now, these lands are either in the forest or touching a forest. Uh, so, I'll give you the example of what happens in Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, if you get a Satbara, a 712, you get a stamp on it, which is either Battis, Battis is 32, or you get a stamp on it called Bais. Battis is basically land that has gone into forest, which means there you cannot do anything. Uh, it's actually forest land. It's not yours anymore. On paper, your name is there, but technically you can't do much over there apart from planting some trees. You can't fence. You can't do anything there. It's a very very important piece of the forest infrastructure. Then you have buys. Now buys is basically 22, and these are government stamps. You get a stamp on your Satbara. When you got a buy Sika, which basically means it's deemed forest. Deemed forest are lands that are just outside the forest line. These are called deemed forests simply because they are very close to the forest. They are lands that are used as buffer zones. Government of India now wants to make deemed forest commercially viable, which basically means that on deemed forest lands you can build resorts, you can build bungalows, you can do whatever you want. Uh, I mean, it is a disaster you can't even imagine at what level it will happen. And I'm talking across the country. You go to tiger reserves, you go to Tadoba, you go to Ranthambore. There are people building resorts in buffer zones. Those are deemed forest lands. Nobody to stop them. It is corruption at a level you can't even imagine. Uh, you can't convert a deemed forest land to a non-agricultural land by law, but that is happening. So people build resorts over there. Before I wind any further, the laws are fantastic. The laws are really, really very good. For instance, you can't build more than 1500 square feet or 2000 square feet of farmhouse in however big your agricultural land is. But people build on agricultural land, bungalows, resorts, and now with these home sharing apps in place, most of them are on rent, commercially used. Uh, it's really really bad. If the day the deforesting happens, trust me, we are heading to a very, very big disaster. Let me link it back to what's currently going on in the north, the floods. If you look at the floods, water is not much of a destruction. Water remains in its path. Uh, Water changes path when you obstruct it. What's happening in North India is water is changing path. Water is changing path simply because the water pathways are clogged. You will see lots of timber, forest, wood in the water flowing. This is all illegal cutting, illegal tampering of forest, landslides. And I don't know what are we going to give our next generation. Are we going to give our next generation some nonsensical stuff? We must thank our previous generation for giving us a beautiful country. But the laws that are being enacted now, you will find the next generation not enjoying any of these. This is a very sensitive subject, and I don't think so. There is any proper consulting, proper talking to people around buffer zones, all commercially exploited. Investors are putting money, things are being built, resorts are being built on agricultural land. Nobody to check. The tehsildars, the collectors are all taped up. It is a corruption. It is corruption at a level you can't even imagine. And there are no checks and balances because in most state governments, we don't have a state government. So the collector and the tehsildar become kings. They do their own thing. Nobody to ask, nobody to check. Karjat, where I have a piece of land, is now considered one of the prime locations for a second home in Maharashtra. Lots of people are investing there, which is very good. There is no infrastructure. There is no water. There is no supply of water. There is no drainage system. There is no sewage system. There is no plastic disposable system. There is no garbage disposable system. Everything goes into the forest or everything goes into the river. That's what is happening. So I don't know the government of India who's advising them to do all this. Kashmir, if you visit any of the hills, North India, the Himalayas, the pine forests are being killed systematically. They are being poisoned. You see tons and tons of pine trees which are 200 years old, 100 years old, dying, drying up and dying because they are being poisoned for timber. I mean, I understand all this commercialization, growth, capitalism, all this song and dance. I mean, I am a product of that. But to take away what our generations to follow should get is not correct. I hope this message travels. I hope this message goes to people who are relevant, people who take these decisions. I think they are completely stupid. There should be clear forest lines. There should be urban lines. You go to Kodaikanal, people are building homes in forest. The bison walks in Kodaikanal. The bison walks in Ooty. Why is the bison there? Because you built homes in their path. It is sad and it is also scary. You go to Assam, there are rhinos walking in villages. Rhinos are walking because you build homes on their land. Rhinos don't come to urban areas. They come to urban areas when you build homes on their path. You go to Kerala, elephants are walking through your house. There is a resort in Tadoba which feeds chicken to the tiger because he wants to show his guest tiger in his backyard. That is the level of nonsense going on. You go to any tiger reserve, the law is very clear that in every zone, the tiger reserves are divided in zones. You can have, I think, 5 canters and 10 jeeps. Show me one picture on social media where you see a tiger and you see that many vehicles. You will see 50 jeeps and 40 canters next to a tiger. How do they get there? Why are there no laws preventing them to not cross a zone? The laws are there. The driver loses his license, but there is nobody to check. Everyone does his own thing. It's mayhem. I think environment protection, environment safety should be a priority to all of us. For a generation who enjoyed it, for a generation who is going to come, I think they deserve it. I think it is harakiri what is going on in this country. What's happening in the Himalayas currently, the floods are a great indicator of landslides, stolen timber, all flowing in the rivers. They're taking homes and going. It's good. What can you do? You build homes in a river. Every river has got two lines, the regular water line and there's a flooding water line. Most of the guys have built homes on flooding water line. It's flooding and your homes are going. So I don't see any reason why you should complain. Water bodies, I mean, if you look at what's happening in Hyderabad, half the lakes are being sold as land. Uh, Lake areas are being destroyed. One of the biggest lakes of Hyderabad, the Gandipet, is now converted into a plotted land. I mean, this this is a pain point. Every one of you who's watching this should respond in their own little way. I have a platform, I'm saying it. If you have a platform, please say it. The second part, 150 crores per acre of cantonment land. I grew up in Secunderabad, which is next to a cantonment. Cantonments are beautiful. They are maintained by the military. The military takes care of them. They're lovely. But why should civilians go there? It's not our job. You want a road through a cantonment? Uh, when you built your house there, you should have figured out if there was a road or not there. If there's no road, you should have gone there. You've gone and built a house on the other side of the cantonment, and now you want a road through it. You want cantonment guys to sell their land. Uh, it's not correct. I mean, at so many levels, so many things are going wrong. And this government, for all its nationalism and bravadogiri, can't do this. They can't plunder national resources. They cannot plunder army resources. They cannot do this. It is incorrect. I think this has to stop. This has to stop to a level you can't even imagine. I think India needs to rewind and go back to 80s and 90s. Get the land laws come in. Uh, I don't know how many of you know this. India is surveyed, mapped, point to point by the Brits, which I think happened in 1920 or 1925. Even today, when you buy land in rural India, the indicators and points that the surveyors use are the ones created by the Brits. We don't even have a proper survey map of India on which lands can be earmarked. I mean, it is so sad. Because you have weak marks, you have weak lines. People are invading. People are going into areas which are not theirs. People are destroying. People are breaking stuff. The drive from Srinagar to Gulmarg is 45 minutes. It takes you 6 hours because of all these cars on those roads, uh, with carbon monoxide being pumped into the air. I mean, when will all this get controlled, stopped, regulated? Kodaikanal, same story. Ooty doesn't look like a hill station anymore. Ooty and Bandra look the same. The only difference between Ooty and Bandra is Ooty's got horses. Bandra has no horses. You put some horses next to a Bandra lake, it looks like Ooty. Hot, sultry, dirty, full of plastic, loud music, food thrown everywhere. I mean, this has to stop. This has to really stop. Unless we protect the environment, unless we give back to nature what nature has given us, the nature will keep destroying us and nature will take it back. You can be very smart for 5 years, 8 years. One day a storm will come, he'll take it and go. Now, the biggest crisis in India, and I don't know how many of you realize this, is the number of cattle in tiger reserves. In 1970s and 80s, cattle killed the Indian vulture. Somebody had sense then and saved the Indian vulture. The next casualties are wildlife, which is a lion and the tiger. They're feasting on cattle all the time because the farmers are just leaving them in the forest because they can't sell it. Cattle is full of vaccines, full of medicines, and the tigers are consuming it. They're becoming fat. They don't know how to run. They can't hunt very soon, and they're going to develop diseases, and they will at one stage start dying, and you will not be able to stop it. I think the government of India should hand over environment, forest to an independent body. I don't think so the Ministry of Environment has any brains, has any sense, and has no clue what's going on. For them, it is a resource that can be sold and made the best money out of. Don't do it. The generations that are going to come next are going to curse you. But what are you going to do? Look at Cape Town, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It's gone dry. They have no water. India is next. We have enough water. Learn to preserve it, take care of it, respect it, and love it. It will love you back. Forests are meant to absorb water and keep water up there. You take away the forest, they'll come into your cities. The reason why Manali is flooded or Himachal is flooded is because you've cut forests in the Himalayas. Don't cut them. You don't cut the forest will take care of the water. Currently, there's no forest, therefore, the water is in your city. Fix it. It's a rant, but it's a rant that everyone needs to rant about. I hope this thing travels, and I hope a lot more people see it, and I hope a lot of people get involved in this and stop it. Politicians are absolutely stupid. I have absolutely no respect for them as far as environment is concerned. Don't trust them. Trust yourself. Trust yourself, and yeah. I mean, you've got cheetahs from Africa. They've all died. I think 2 are left. They just don't even know what to introduce where, how to introduce them, which is a domestic wildlife animal, which is not a domestic wildlife animal. And nobody's held accountable. 9 cheetahs came, 6 died, photography happened, shows happened. The guys who got them disappeared, the guys who took photographs disappeared, but the poor animal died. I think there are 2 left with their cubs. Put them in the zoo. At least they'll be alive. It's wrong. Fix it before it's too late. Let's all together get involved and fix it. Let this government or any government not plunder our natural resources. It's not correct. It's not correct. I want to hand over a good country to my children and to my grandchildren and the generations to come. And I think each one of us should take that path and work towards it. Sorry about this, but I had to say it. It's been burning, and after seeing what's happening in the north, it's been hurting me like crazy. Thank you. All the best. Do share if this makes sense to you, and do get involved in making noise about the subject. Take care. Bye.